I can't.
Can't get them anyway. Yeah.
Recording in progress.
It is 7 o'clock and I will call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is public comments. And I'll open it up to anybody in the room or on the Zoom call that is interested in speaking on anything not already on the agenda. Anyone on the call, on the Zoom call that wants to speak, you will have to unmute yourself. Okay. Onward. Next item on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Motion to move to approve minutes of the previous meeting.
There a second? Okay. Motion's made by Jamie and seconded by Glenn to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Under new business, fire department. We have a laundry list of items to go through. So the Knox box, do you want to give us an update on that, Nick?
I think we should,
Or,
we can just turn this over to
Okay.
the acting fire chief and hear from him, and then I am happy to fill in where we are, what updates are and things like that.
okay,
Um,
so you have the floor, Mike.
All right, as you all see, there's a long list. Stuff we like to talk about. I think the first one we need to talk about is the communication, the relationship between the Arlington Select Board and the Arlington Fire Department. My personal opinion is for us to get a meeting with select board members and for us to get this meeting that we're here at tonight, which took upwards of 4 months to do. I think that's pretty sad. I don't think the select board, or maybe some of the select board members, realize that the Arlington Fire Department is a department of the town of Arlington, same as the Arlington Rec Park and the Arlington Town Crew. You see select board members and Nick himself at the rec park. You see Nick and select board members at the town hall. But you never see select board members or Nick at the firehouse. And what do we have to do to?
Let me stop you right there because that's patently false. I've been there numerous times with you and your board, and so has Doug. So that statement right out of the gate is wrong. But continue.
I mean, do we all feel this is wrong? Yes, you're correct. You have been the firehouse since I've been chief. This is my 4th year. I think we've met 3 times. Anyway, we've already touched on the Knox box situation.
Could you give us an update on that?
yeah, so the gist of we set up this system because there were issues with the lack of a tracking mechanism or logging mechanism associated with use of Knox keys. So with one particular business that wasn't comfortable with that, so we set up this system to make it work until we could get a more complete, more accountable mechanism in place. I am happy to get Knox box key control mechanisms ordered such that we could have one in the first out truck in each of West and East Station and in each of the chief's vehicles that has a situation where you punch in a code and then it gives you the key, but then it keeps a digital log of that. So we know exactly when each of these keys are used. That is in contrast with the previous mechanism of having them on a keychain where they could be easily lost. So that way we have a key control mechanism that does not rely on internet access, that only relies on having local codes that are stored in the box. that isn't reliant on anything, that can be wired in and have the records pulled periodically. So that's what my proposal is. And then that'll allow us to feel comfortable with rekeying the rest of the boxes and make sure that everyone has keys that access everything at all times. That's my solution here. I got a quote from Knox on Friday to prepare for this.
Nick, would that show where you're pulling the key out? Because you're gonna see a lot of, key use, because that's how we get our fuel key. So, you know, I don't know if that would,
Yeah,
but you're gonna see a lot of key use, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And then you might say, well, gee, there was no call, but why do they have the key?
no,
That's the only thing I could see
yeah, that's one thing
there.
I can check on the technology and make sure that it's doing a GPS coordinate of where it is.
Because that's how we access our key.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of
to get our
sense.
fuel.
And if we see, okay, they're being accessed at that site, yeah, we know that. And we also have receipts that validate when you guys got fuel.
Well, we
So,
don't anymore because, well.
Well, we do it from ours.
yeah, we have it on the back.
You see, does it give you a date?
Mhm.
Well, it does. So they check them every day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't, I thought it was monthly.
yeah, so that's something that we
You
can,
get a monthly bill, but they're checked on a daily basis.
so that we,
Each,
and I'm not gonna be pulling these from all of your personal vehicles.
No, I
every
just
day.
was throwing that out there that you're gonna see a lot of key use, whether it be
Yeah, of course.
one of us or all three of us, it all depends on who's around.
Yeah.
You're gonna see punches because that's the only way we can get fuel.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate you bringing that up because that's something I didn't really know about. But yeah, I'm happy to get these ordered like tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow because I'm off tomorrow, but on Wednesday. But yeah, I got a quote from, Ralph at Knox on these units on Friday. So and as you guys know, rekeying these Knox boxes themselves is a really quick process. One can be done in 2 minutes with one turn of a wrench effectively. So yeah, that's all I'll need is a key holder to bop around with me to get these remaining boxes keyed over. It's a fairly simple process, but once we have those installed, we can do that.
We could replace Knox box key, Knox box lock sets every time a Knox box key is lost. It's only happened once in, God, I've been in the department for over 30 years. It's only happened once.
This should make it so the accountability is there. You have a box that you put it in and out. So because they're not bouncing around on someone's keychain, the likelihood of a key being lost under the system that we can implement is so much lower than the likelihood of losing a key while bouncing around on someone's keychain. It certainly would be worth it. We could opt to go to the key secure 6, not key secure 5 mechanisms that make this so we never have to deal with that again. But that's a higher upfront cost that I'm not sure we really need to be bearing right now. But it is an option if we want to go to that higher tier Knox box mechanism that has a digital key situation and a lot more complicated of a system that is in use up in the northern part of the state primarily. But yeah, we could do that, but the likelihood that we're going to need to do that if we simply implement that key secure 5 system should make it so it's not.
What's the price tag on that?
It's like $1,000 a unit, so we're gonna be in and out for like 6. So it's just mounted onto a bracket and it's good to go. So there's no wire.
What's the monitoring and all that?
Yeah, the monitoring is $1,000 or $791 per year. But that is also, that's signing us up for the lowest Knox box plan. And I think that peace of mind of not having the accountability of these keys and making sure we know where they are at all times is absolutely worth $791 a year after these one-time upfront investments. So, but yeah, including the first year of monitoring, this would be an outlay of $6,291, approximately. But
How much you say?
so it's about just under $6,300 to get this fully transitioned. We already do have all the lock mechanisms as you know. So, but yeah, that's certainly what I would love to get done and get these changed over, not have to worry about this again. And have a really secure, accountable system that everyone can feel like we know where the Knox keys are all the time. And setting it up in a system that, unlike when we talked about this previously, they were going to be only in the fire trucks. This mechanism would have them with each of the chiefs in their vehicles as well as in the fire truck. So it is likely that we have all the benefits of it being on the keychains as they have been, but with the accountability. So,
Well, it's gonna be a major, for me, I can't speak for Brian or Eric. For me, I own two vehicles. And I might be out in my Jeep, or I might be out of town and come back into town. And my key, Knox box key is in my pickup at home. Right now, my Knox box key stays in my locked up pickup, you know. And when I go on my Jeep, it's in my Jeep, it's in my locked up Jeep.
that's an entirely reasonable point. I'll need to look at whether we can get some extra brackets such that the units can be moved from vehicle A to vehicle B as well. That
Well,
could be,
not anything in vehicle B.
Yeah.
I don't even put a fire radio in that vehicle.
that's fair. And that's entirely understandable. But yes, this is the way we can get this mechanism in place without the boxes being mounted only in the trucks. And maintain the response times and the access to the unit or to the keys that we have right now or close to it.
Because like right now, we have 6 keys, we have 3 chiefs have them, 3 captains have them. Prime example, these two guys are both going on a cruise in June, they'll be gone for 10 days. If I'm not in town, nobody else has a Knox box key unless a particular truck shows up.
I mean, we could, but again, because there will always be one in the trucks, and we could assign, say, the captains their own codes that can access those that are sitting in the trucks. There will always be keys available. They may not be as available as they are right now in all cases, but there certainly will always be keys available, no matter what's going on, because they will always be in the trucks. We can set up codes for everyone who is relevant and make sure that there's always access. So
You said you have quotes on all that stuff?
I have quotes on these things. I want to finalize that with actual prices. I got pricing on it, but I want to go and get you guys a final quote with the correct number of brackets and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I did get pricing on
Now that
it.
we've had the discussion.
Yeah, now that we've had the discussion,
So at the next meeting, we can take
yeah, we
action.
can vote on that at a coming meeting.
Okay. So the next item on the list is dry hydrants.
Yeah, last spring, I met with Troy there. Well, at first I spoke with Troy on the phone. I actually wound up meeting with him. He and I went around to 4 different sites between Arlington and Sunderland. And that led me, I can't remember the guy's last name, I know his first name's Mark. He's the designer in the company that builds the spring down dry hydrants. And I met with, first with a phone conversation with him. Second, I went around and I did all the water measurements and the bridge measurements that he was looking for to get him a rough idea of what he was looking at, the water depth and stuff. And then that turned into a half-day adventure, going around all the sites and taking better measurements and whatnot with it. He submitted quotes, Troy got them as well. It got to the point where it was up to someone in his building to pass it on to the town of Sunderland and to do the paperwork and get permission from the state to put one on their bridge on Route 7A. As of 2 months ago, nobody had ever approached Sunderland. Basically, what I'm looking at is I probably spent 10 hours of my time, got the quotes, everything ready. The dry hydrants are paid for 70 or 75%, so it only would have cost both towns a couple $1,000 a piece to do these dry hydrants, and then it just went stale.
So I can give you the update on that, which is the last email I'm not sure what the deal was with Sunderland. I'm not sure we ever clarified who was to approach the Sunderland Select Board about that. whether that was going to be you, the fire department, or me, the town administrator of Arlington. But importantly, what I know was definitely my job was to contact V-Trans. And I did that and got a response on 5/23/23 and sent you an email saying, we need the full design from Troy and his people. And then the line went silent. I think we just lost something in there last May, and we can renew that. That's not a big deal. Like, we do just need to get the design for V-Trans to approve. Then once we have the permissions to do this, we can put into our program. They run 3 times a year. So it's something that as soon as, like, if you want me to get in touch with Troy, I can talk with him and get his designs directly and then send it up to V-Trans. But I'm always happy to communicate with V-Trans. But yeah, I think that was just something we lost last year in the spring with a couple of emails. And that's something that's very easy to remedy. So I will email Troy.
Well, the designs came from the Mark Jack from Maryland,
Okay.
because different bridges require different types of brackets. Like one of some of the bridges was more expensive because they had to make different brackets because it's not a normal bridge rail. And then we still really never came up with a solution for the dry hydrant down here at the ice rink, which is unusable.
Yeah, so that's when I'm happy to communicate with whoever we need to on getting that design out, because the ice rink one, we know is an important one, and we know is going to be tricky for V-Trans permit with the awkward design in there and the awkward angles in there. But yeah, all we need to do is talk to whoever we're talking to about the design and get the specific design from them to send to V-Trans for approval. So that, which is exactly like we would do any V-Trans permit to put anything in the right of way. So,
Mike, when Troy was down, did he say we could put one of those swing ones on that bridge?
No, that one was gonna be just a standpipe on the bridge embankment, but on the west side, because the bridge has an arch to it.
Right,
Looked like Shushan, right?
Yeah, it'd be, so it was, get it out.
right, because I was my question here is, right now, we go down into the parking lot to hit a hydrant. If it's up on the top of the bridge itself, then we're gonna be in the road and everything's gonna be shut down when we're operating.
Well, that's one of the things we talked about, depends on how far back on the embankment. If we did get a 6-foot suction hose, we would be able to keep one lane open, because there's times where you go pull in the rec park and all the cars there, you can't do. I mean, there's always that one if situation.
Right.
If we need that hydrant for something in town, traffic on 313 is probably gonna be one of our last concerns. We're gonna be looking at.
I realize that,
Sure.
but we do drill down there a lot.
Right.
So just thinking about that, when you're going down to drill, you don't wanna be impeding traffic.
we could run a longer
Don't need
suction hose potentially.
No, it's just something on the west-hand side by the yellow barn on the north end of the bridge that goes right down into the water. And then it comes up, it turns, and I believe they make swivels now, for dry hydrants. So it wouldn't necessarily be at the guardrail unless, or the bridge rail, unless we needed it to be. But that they cannot do a swing down hydrant there because.
That's what I thought, I was just wondering about the traffic situation there.
Well, it's like the one up by Tory Lane North, and that's doing the same mode. If we utilize that hydrant for anything, it's gonna be messing up traffic on 7A, which we can go around Dunham Road for that, if we had to. Hill Farm's not such a big deal, and the one up by the way station is not that big a deal.
Could we mount one with a longer hose on that pedestrian bridge and feed off of that in some way? I'm thinking if we can get a little bit more creative.
Only
We
problem is
have
that
bridge.
that isn't plowed during the winter.
It isn't plowed during the winter, that's fair. Yeah, that
Wherever
makes
it
sense.
is, you want it to be accessible all year.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And Vermont Fish and Game has already told us we can't cut back the vegetation around that bridge, no matter what the public safety impetus is. I did look into that when you asked about that.
Right, yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, that was very fun. I'm very disappointed that the state wouldn't allow us to do that with the obvious public safety benefits.
You know, our big concern for that area is just for Sunrise Lane, Red Mountain Road, Tory Lane. We don't have a water supply in north end of town anymore.
No, these grants are a good idea, but it's something that's worth revisiting, and maybe you and I can get on the same page and see and and revisit this, see what we need, and get the relevant permissions, and then get that grant. Like, this is gonna be a very straightforward grant application. Once we have the specs.
We want to move now to the
Truck, 7-4.
the truck 7-4. I kind of suggested letting it go through the auction last year when we did the auction thing, but nobody else was in favor of it. That truck sits there at West Station, has no equipment on it. While I was under suspension, one of the acting chiefs told the members or officers that the truck needed to be put back in full service per order of the select board, no questions asked. It's not back in service. Did the select board wish for that truck to be back in service? Our opinion right now is to, as the three of us sitting here, we all talked about letting that truck go for auction, whatever we can get, or set a minimum price on it. But utilizing that money to replace the truck utility 710, which is in desperate need of replacement.
So you said it was appraised for 40 to 50. I think that's extremely low for that truck personally. I would
Well,
rather see it be in service here in town.
North Bennington got rid of their 1,500 gallon minute pump, 1,000 gallon truck. They had it for sale for $125,000. They wound up giving it to another department. Used fire.
Which is why I say 40 to 50. I don't see getting rid of it for 40 to 50.
Can I add something there though? Cause like you guys almost had something here this week. You had a plow truck go down, but you guys let a plow truck that was a good spare that's hard to find. Same as our fire truck. You let that go for $1,500. But yet we can't get rid of a truck that we don't really need. We usually don't even have enough drivers for one down at West to try to get something to tow our trailer where that excursion's hurting. I mean, I would have kept that plow truck for $1,500 for, even if I only used it twice a year. $1,500 is nothing. But yet we don't want to try to get rid of this and make some money off it for 40,000. It's.
I personally see it as more value to the town of Arlington than it does for 40 grand. I mean, that truck cost us $326,000 when it was purchased.
You know, we usually sell trucks for $5,000 in this.
I
town.
know.
So that's what we've been trying to do is sell trucks earlier, so you get more money than $5,000.
I understand that. I just don't think 40 to 50 is enough. And if that is all you're gonna get, then I'd say you keep it and use it. That's just my opinion. There's other board members
How
here.
old is that truck?
It's
2005.
And the appraisal was $40,000 to $50,000 back in 2020 or 2021.
So next year will be 20 years old.
That would go towards quite a bit of a utility vehicle that we could really use all the time instead of having a truck sitting at West that doesn't get used.
Would this truck get used even if it was in service?
The one down there, we hardly move out. I mean, you gotta have a driver for one, and most of the time we cancel people before it even gets on the road. But yeah, it might come out for drills and stuff, but other than that, we don't really have use for it. Because with talking with all our mutual aid departments and stuff, we've kind of changed up our mutual aid truck now. Because everybody's looking for you to cover what they do. So now that we have 2 sets of rescue equipment, we send the new engine rescue, which is pretty much the same as the truck that's sitting at West. So now if we're in Shushan and you get in a car accident, we can go cut you out of the car because we have some tools with us. So we changed up that used to be a mutual aid truck. That was the most use it'd get besides structure fires. So the excursion goes out on every call, tows the trailer, but it's working to tow our trailer now. I mean, it's old. We bought it cheap because we wanted to try it out and it's proved its point. So what we're looking to do is the truck sinking fund that's hurting, do the same thing that the town was trying to do with their excavator stuff. That's why we brought this to you. I mean, we've seen it done throughout here. That's why we'd like to do.
Just as an FYI, that the capital plan does have the SUV up for replacement next year, so it's not an unreasonable thing to be thinking
But
of.
it comes out of our, yeah,
It
it
comes
comes
out of
out of
sinking
truck
fund.
sinking fund, which is
Yeah.
already hurting. We all know that.
Yeah, there's cost pressures in that, and I'm sure we'll get to this, but I did go and recheck our capital planning and all that to make sure that we're speaking about these things rationally.
I mean, that's,
And like, since we got the right information 2 years ago.
that's,
So,
My personal opinion is we don't get rid of the truck. We started out, when I first joined 33 years ago, we had 6 engines. A couple of them were old, tankers with small pumps. We reduced it to 5, we reduced it to 4. I don't think we should reduce it to 3. I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
I think we have to look at, when is the next pumper due to be replaced?
next pumper is due to be replaced. Earliest I'm seeing is 28 is the next time we'll be wanting to take a pumper. And that is current 7.7.
Yes. So as the way I'm thinking right now, our next replacement truck being 7.7 will probably be another engine rescue. More than likely, the newest truck we have will go to west, and the newest truck we purchased will stay east. We're gonna be short. One of the reasons I didn't necessarily have a problem with taking the old 7.4 out of service is we cannot afford to replace pumpers in a timely manner, as it is. The prices of fire trucks keep going up drastically. Shasberry has ordered a fire truck almost identical to our tanker that we bought in 2013. We paid $350,000. They're gonna pay almost $700,000. So it's for an almost identical truck, you're almost double the price.
Importantly, I will put an important board caveat on that. That was a one bid procurement. So I'm not sure, and it seemed a little bit rushed in having gone back and looked at this and how this procurement process went after this number was raised. It seemed high to me, above what normal inflation would be. So I think it would be important for us to revisit this, but it's never a bad thing to start the process toward our planning for the next engine replacement. And getting a committee set up in the intermediate term to start thinking about that is a worthwhile thing. Knowing that there's some really big volatility in this market, it's worth at least talking to some salesmen on a couple of different scenarios of where we're at. But that's something we have not done.
Well, there's other departments too, like Manchester's replacing their engine too, and they're going from a custom cab over like they've done for years to a international cab and chassis. The only big difference for them is it's gonna be a 4-door, so it's a 5-seater truck, $625,000.
So I guess we gotta take into consideration here tonight, if we put 7.4 back in service, we're gonna have to buy some equipment. Because a lot of that stuff got moved to the new 7.4, which is working great. And actually, we've been talking, and hopefully when that comes due to be replaced, being the aluminum body and everything, we can do a remount. I mean, that's why they build them type of rescue trucks without pumps, because you take that box off of there, they refurbish it just a little bit, same thing that the rescue squad can do. Put a new cab and chassis under, boom, you're on the road again, a lot cheaper. But now we gotta come up with equipment to put that truck back in service. Now that's money that we gotta take from somewheres to buy air packs, because we put them on the rescue.
And that cannot be a mutual aid truck. It only has 500 gallons of water. An ETA to do coverage, standby coverages in New York State is a minimum of 1,000 gallons. Otherwise, it's just an engine rescue. That's one thing we have to remember. The truck has 500 gallons of water. Nobody's gonna attack any type of fire, which is 500 gallons of water sitting there.
At minimum, this is a good time to be starting the discussion on fire trucks. What equipment we would need to outfit that next vehicle. Getting an idea of what the equipment list would be a good start to that. So that we can know what are the added costs above and beyond this. that are gonna be out of tip, what is probably gonna be our operating budget.
What was hard, we wanted to start talking about a truck, but I guess if I can't speak for Mike, but guess what we're trying to look for is, this truck sits there and every day it gets worse and worse. You know when a vehicle sits, right? We do pull it out, we use it for certain things. But that's why we're approaching to see if we can sell this truck. So,
What is it?
you don't have to make a decision tonight, but I'm just trying to point out that we already talked about, we gotta start planning our next truck. But we wanna know what you wanna do with this one, not just sit.
What is the detriment going down to
Truck back
3
in service
engines?
with the air packs, and you're talking $50,000.
You can be out of water
way
quicker. Even though,
Um,
you're
and
not,
we
you
also
don't have
need
the
to talk
ability
to the
to do
ISO
that
on
with
that,
supply
make sure
chain.
it's not gonna, on its own, a downside.
You need one to
impact
talk to the
your
next.
access. That's a
One
big
of those
deal,
will
and I
always
can
say
think the
it's
ISO
to
has
act or
not.
something
When I
like
met
that.
with the
As it is
ISO,
right now, you got an engine and a tank that
2021,
are
which is
going
our
back to
ISO
back.
review,
Then you've got
I
four
asked her
other
then, she
tankers
said,
from
we need
west.
to be able to supply
Gotcha.
That
3,500 gallons
that's
of
it.
water per minute.
Usually
which
doesn't
the
show
two
up
trucks
quick.
we have
Okay,
exceeds
so
Yeah,
can I listen to you guys, can I answer on that?
Yeah.
So the way our new dispatch system is, and I believe this is a proven fact for the South Road fire. We get to a fire and we pull a tanker alarm, 20,000 gallons sitting there, and I want to tell you what, it was there in no time, probably faster than the four of us, if we had all four engines, could set up water supply at the pond up there with only four guys. Our new dispatch is great. I'm glad we made the switch, because we don't even have to think. We get a fire call, Manchester's coming already, Shaftesbury's coming already, East Dorset's coming already. So I understand what you're saying, Jamie, is that was a
The
trap truck.
dispatch, you can't always guarantee they're coming. Manchester didn't come that night. They were dispatched 6 times. They never
For a
got
standby.
anybody to come down through.
Yeah, we solved that problem because we didn't have any place for him to sit. That's a totally different thing. That's already solved thing. But, you know, we don't have the manpower to run with what we got now. So you're gonna have somebody from here to west to try to go get your draft truck. By then, I hope Shasbury's gonna be here. You know, so I understand that we had this, but we were trying to narrow it up to try to get quicker revolutions. Let's get some money out. We watch all these other fire departments around us. I can't say all of them, because some have, we're pretty fortunate here. I'm gonna give you guys that. We got good equipment. But I've seen a lot worse towns, but some of the ones around us, they trade trucks off and get money for them. We've never got money out of any truck I've ever seen go out of here. We sold trucks for $500.
it's gonna take us, and in my capital plan, it's gonna take us a long time. It's gonna be at the end of the current vehicle use cycle to even get to the point where theoretically we're getting meaningful money back on a every truck sale basis. It's gonna take us turning these trucks faster and higher sinking fund allocations and a lot sooner than we were initially planning for. But
Well, 15 to 18 years old, they used to say 15 to 18 years old, you get 50% of your money back. Tanker 7.6 is going to be, it's already 10 years old.
Yep.
We're not gonna be able to replace it for probably another 10 years at least. We're not gonna get 50% of our money back. Which that's not saying that it can't happen in the future, but it's not gonna happen on our next two trucks, for sure.
no, it's,
Which.
the math does, it does look scarier as these price increases manifest. And it's something that is a very serious reality of fighting fires in the modern era.
I guess I'll say that, and don't disrespect Jamie at all, but all the officers are in agreement with getting rid of truck 7.4. Everyone likes the direction. I honestly think this is one of the things that the town ought to just listen to the fire officers and let the fire officers make the decision. Or, like, again, no disrespect to Jamie, but we all disagree.
As I said, I'm only one voice over here.
Quick question on the replacement for 28. If I'm doing the calculations in my mind correctly, we need to seriously stand up the committee in the minimum 2 years out, probably a
About-
year out.
It'll take a year, well, it'll take the better part of a year for us to talk about what we want.
Yeah.
And then start meeting with salesmen. The truck manufacturers are saying, if you order a truck, you're gonna be waiting 3 years for the
Okay.
truck.
Well, that's what I'm saying, back to back from 28, 3 years. So we have to make a decision then.
There should be a committee
What
being
bill?
made, started this
So we need to
fall.
have that,
Yeah, end of this year, early
and
next
this year or
year.
next year, we need to have that committee set up.
Yes.
And we're moving forward quickly.
Yes.
So, okay.
Which, with our new truck, everyone likes it. We might save a lot of work.
Yeah, it's,
Nothing wrong with that, but that
And-
also gives us time, even though that 3 years, we're still looking at 28, no matter how we do that. We still have time to build the sinking fund while we're doing two things simultaneously.
and what we, but, and importantly, we do not, under any circumstance, want to order this truck too early.
No,
Because that is how this government gets caught with its pants down and $100,000 short on the payment for the truck at the end. And that scares me.
Well, that's something, once we get to that point where, all right, this is what we want, you put it out to spec. You can ask all the salesmen,
Mhm.
how long is it gonna take to make this truck? Because if you, even if you order it at the beginning of next year or the end of this year, you don't have to pay for it till it's done. So if they say you're gonna get 3.5 years before you see this truck, that'll give you the time frame to say, look, figure out the funding for the truck.
I'm coming from a place where my brother-in-law, who runs a rescue squad, had an ambulance come in a year early. And that was a scary scenario.
So I understand that. But trucks seem to get, right now, they seem to be getting further out. Manchester was told 3 years. And they're, part of it is international.
so we just have to be on top of that.
Yeah, we should definitely be standing up this committee as the firehouse committee gets toward the end of its work in the short term. Standing this up so that we can kind of flow from not having too many secondary committees for firefighters to try to attend on top of the normal things that are going on. And the select board not having too many big fire things on its plate. But yeah, the timing on that committee does sound good at the end of this year, early next year.
So I guess as far as the end, right, 7-4, we'll wait for your guys' decision on what to be done with it. You have to take time and think about it. Since we're talking about fire trucks, the truck 7-7 that is at West Station. I know you guys, there's a spending policy around, you want quotes on fixing things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the plastic ball valves in 7-7 have to be replaced. He gave me a verbal quote of $5,000. This truck is a 1999, so it's got some age to it. We've already had to replace some rotten piping. So knowing that the ball valves are gonna cost $5,000 to fix, there could be added expenses when you start tearing apart a pump the age that it is. Pipes, brake, joints, rubber gaskets, et cetera, et cetera. I can't get a quote. I can get a quote for the ball valves, but I can't get a quote of what this job's gonna cost. And if he comes across anything else the truck needs, he may give us a quote for, say, $5,500. And once they get tearing into things, it could be $7,500.
That's not, I mean, that's not unusual that that stuff happens. I think it's when we go to do a project we want. You may not even be able to get 3 quotes, period. That happens a lot too. Sometimes there's only one company out there that'll do it. Sometimes there's one company and one company that really doesn't want to do it, so they give you a super high price. All we ask is that you're looking for other opportunities, and if they're not there, they're not there. And if you start into this project and all of a sudden other things are wrong, I don't think any member of this board is gonna, nope, you gotta stop what you're doing and go back and get another quote. You gotta move forward and get the job done.
Yeah, correct.
And importantly, the procurement policy does give my office substantial latitude, particularly with regard to these repair things, because we had some of those problems in the past, and we set that policy up specifically to address fire truck repairs. It was written, having had some of those bad experiences in 21, where our policy didn't have this allowance, and we were trying to get quotes that we couldn't get. But yeah, there is some extra latitude in there for me to approve things that are like this. So, okay, we need $2,000 approved. Well, that's something that is in my purview for fire expenses to do and approve in a time sensitive manner. This isn't an emergency procurement. This is not a special procurement. This is a normal thing that we have built in just in case for these scenarios. So, but yeah, that's something, send me a text with, or give me a call with the quote, and I can give you that approval quickly when it is relevant. So just so we're on the same page on that, I can go through the current policy and what it allows and doesn't allow with it. I mean,
I would ask that the approval for 7-4 just be bumped to the next meeting and warned to the next meeting.
Yeah, let's do that. We can make a decision by then. Mike, I think the spending issue is less about the number of quotes, more about having a realistic range or idea of what the cost is going to be. I mean, from where I sit, that's what we're trying to do is kind of not have things be completely open-ended, understanding that, yeah, when you run into a situation like that and they're tearing apart or replacing those parts, it's not a matter of them stopping at a certain point. If they find that stuff, they gotta fix it. We understand it. But it might be, okay, this is what we know the cost is gonna be, and there might be an additional 500 to 7,500 in other repairs. We just don't know. That's the kind of number. It narrows it some, even though we know there's an open-ended part of that.
Well, some of the reason I question, the whole spend, like I know, when was it, a month ago, we submitted a quote for radios and pagers, and it had to get tabled because, they wanted more description and discussion on what the stuff was actually for. That kind of to me, that throws a red flag. I mean, we know we need pagers, we know we need portable radio batteries. You can plan on replace them every year. This is all general maintenance stuff, but even that quote that Eric provided had to be tabled till the next meeting because there was unanswered questions.
No, there weren't any unanswered questions. There was multiple people missing from the meeting. That's what happened.
and to me, that seemed like it was more.
Nick had a family
equipment
emergency.
and-
I'm not 100% sure if you were here. I think you might have been at work.
I wasn't here either.
There's only 3 of us here.
I know someone said Cynthia wanted more description on what stuff is for. I wasn't here. But I mean, that's not new equipment because pagers can be new equipment because they're replaceable. And then sometimes we just need more. But like batteries, replacing batteries and portable radios, I mean, that's
Yeah, that should be.
that's a maintenance thing.
Yeah,
We're gonna go through 3 or 4 of them this month because we got that many juniors who are now turning 18, who now can finally get a pager.
4 of our juniors have, 2 of them back end of last year. One the other day and one tomorrow. 4 of our juniors have turned full members. So there's 4 pagers that gotta go out, and we don't have them.
It's a good problem to have.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's
very much so.
good that they're staying.
Yeah.
Because usually they're only here for community service hours and then, which I understand. There's a whole nother world out there, but these ones seem to be staying, which is great. We put all that time into them and they're hanging out, so.
Right.
And the best part is we're replacing the juniors. We got other juniors interested in joining, so.
something that isn't true of many departments in this county. So we can certainly do.
New blood is always a good thing.
Yes. I know we're limited for time, so I'm trying to get through some important stuff. I can ask Nick that another day. I don't want to wrap this all in one thing. We know that there's a situation going on with the company. It's going that particular direction. We have some money that the company's holding for us, just so it's somewhere safe. We have opportunities and the ability to raise a lot more money. But we need to find some place to put it. This is, I don't want to say it shouldn't go in the general fund, but we don't think it should be going in the general fund. This is money that the firemen raise that buy equipment above and beyond what the town can just provide us for the year. This is money we can raise if three chiefs decide they want to buy members and sweatshirts. This is money we raise to help out firemen in rough times. This is the firemen's money, just like Manchester raises money to their stuff in the pancake breakfast and stuff they do like that. Our big thing is we need someplace to put it under watchful eye.
So like if we try to start a sinking, or not a sinking fund, sorry, like a thing for a rhino, right? So now you're asking for donations. We talked about this, Todd, maybe you get bigger donations because you're pointing it towards something. We have no place really to put that money.
I mean,
Besides into the companies, but that's hard to control. We need,
yeah,
you know, and
I can't speak for the legalities of a town, but I can tell you that the treasurer manages funds. For example, the athletic fund, the John Warner Scholarship Fund. Like those are separate funds that are managed by the treasurer. I'll use the John Warner Fund for an example, the scholarship fund. Every 3 years, because there's a substantial amount of money in there, we keep a portion of it out to pay for the scholarships. The rest of it goes into a CD. The treasurer manages all of that. I oversee it as just the de facto person who took it over when John passed away. But it's all the financial end of it is done by the treasurer. If that's legal within the town government, I don't see why that's not an option, but I don't know the legalities of it under town government.
So I can speak to that quickly, that when you do that with town government, the complication is it has to be constituted under the trustees of public funds. And with former trustee in the room, it certainly is, and with Dan's ex-wife having been a trustee for many, many, many years, those funds are managed by an independent 3-member board that does things like manage the cemetery perpetual care fund. We could do that. One, these donations are not tax deductible because they're donated to a government. Two, they're not necessarily in fire department control. They're in, you have to ask the
The
trustees
trustees.
for
Control
that.
those.
And there's nothing that says one of you or someone you all like wouldn't want to serve as a trustee. We're regularly struggling to find trustees in the past. Currently, we have 3 members, but that was one of the hardest roles that we've ever had to fill. So it would not be unreasonable if members of the fire department were seeking to set up a trust or a public trust, as they're called, to manage some of these funds outside of the company. It's just, one, they wouldn't be tax deductible, and 2, there would still be someone you're asking permission for to draw on. And they would be managed by the treasurer, and they would be invested, just like the cemetery funds, things like that. So yeah, option, very much option, having your toolkit, just knowing it's not tax deductible, unlike donations to the company, and not completely in your control. So.
it's not so much in the control, it's to make sure that it stays in what it's intended for, right?
We
So
can
if I
probably
go out
really-
and tell you I'm raising money for the side-by-side, gets put in the company and the company falls short, and what's gonna happen with that money? You know it as well as I do. We're gonna keep the company going, right?
Yep.
So we're looking for a way, if we're raising money for a side-by-side, because we need a new one, but that's something else that you don't want to take out of the truck sinking fund, you know, then
Then that can be done. Your board of trustees are gonna be the ones that say that. The flip side of that is if you're raising money for a side-by-side and all of a sudden you won't decide you want new turnout gear and ask to take that money from the side-by-side account, it's likely the board of trustees is gonna say no. That money was specifically allocated for your side-by-side.
that's
might-
right. That's
You might
why
have
we
to
bought
set
it.
up 3 or 4 different funds that are under trustee management or something like that to have that flexibility, or have a broadly construed, like a fire department fund in the public trust. And then that,
I mean, I guess the bad thing is there.
but then that gets scary.
Is you're not gonna get the big donations if
Right.
they can't write it off on their taxes.
Correct.
That is why you keep
That's
the
the
company
downfall
around.
of the whole
Use the
thing.
company, and you might find, you might be able to set it up as a specific project for say the side by side. You might be able to get donations specifically for that and put them in that, and it can only be used for that.
Yeah.
Because the donors have a say in that. not
Write some
the-
really good bylaws to that,
Right.
that component.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this, that, we have procured donations for the rec park. And those donations have cycled through the rec park committee. But those, the donor gives very specific, instructions on what that money can be used for. So the nonprofit has to follow them. If not, they become in danger of losing their nonprofit status, because when a donor gives money, and that comes with a letter that states this money is to be used for the playground, then that money must be used for the playground. So if you guys did that through your, company, you could do that as well.
And
But make it very
And we
narrow.
could, and I could help someone write a really good grant agreement like that says, okay, I'm giving you this money to do this. It's something that any attorney would be able to help you with as well, but I'm happy to spend some time with you guys. If you find a donation like that, we can find a way to make sure that it's papered over in a way that it gets used the way you want.
Typically, we got one business that's willing to donate, but they're gonna, A, it's to be a specific thing. B, they're probably gonna wanna pay all the taxes.
Oh, yeah, that's
That's the
another-
balance.
Definitely want to do
Why
that,
1C3.
but we're glad
That's
that
the only way you can get it donated and have it taxed.
we're very glad that those who are managing the company did navigate from a simple incorporated company to a nonprofit status a couple of years ago. The leadership of the company really deserves some praise for that. That can be very tricky. And they navigated it. They have that status. You're good to go on that. You just need the right paperwork to make sure that the funds get used to the right things.
We're starting a Arlington Firefighter Association and got a 501c3 and all that fun stuff to keep it away from the company. I guess I wouldn't really even know how to begin to do that.
An accountant and a lawyer.
Yeah. And probably a copy of Mr. Keelan's book, which has a lot of that really helpful information that he'll give you a copy of.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a copy in my office if you want. So, but
It's actually not a super complicated process. The most complicated piece of it is your bylaws and your board. Those are the two most complicated pieces.
Well, that's to roll into that. I mean, our bylaws, we know for the company side, they need to be rewritten, but we're in the position that we're in. So that's why the company decided not to do anything with the bylaws because there may not be around much longer. So it's getting us into a predicament where if something happens and the company rolls over, we gotta make sure our money's spent before their money's spent. Now, I don't know if this is the time and place to talk about that, but has Darren Jennings approached anyone about the possibility of the company being done in the next few months?
Nothing that I know of. Are you aware of anything?
not on that time span by any means. Certainly there was hope to wind down the company at some point in the indeterminate future, but I've never seen or heard anything that said we're gonna get to 25 and there's not gonna be a company there. But certainly I'd love to hear that from him. I'd love to contact him and see what the deal is, with the status of it.
I don't want to speak on line, but
No.
I believe there needs to be a meeting
There should be a follow-up on that.
soon, very soon.
Yeah, I will be in contact with him this week.
We're looking at July 1st.
Okay, we will follow up on that.
And I will take care of that this week.
Which leads me into asking about I know that the town put the fire department back in the company's hands. The members voted 18-0 that the company does not want the fire department. So where does that leave us?
We had to do, and we're still in the process of, there's a lot of legalities and financial implications and the fire department becoming a municipal agency. that we have to make sure that we have crossed our Ts and dotted our Is as a town before we do that, because I'll just use one minor example, it's not really minor, but you all will become employees, like legitimate employees of the town. So we have to make sure that those Ts are crossed and those Is are dotted. What are the financial implications? What are the legal implications? All that. We're not the first ones to do this. There have been many fire departments throughout the state that have become municipal. But we need to get that information and educate
There's a lot
ourselves.
working on it right now, close around us.
Yeah.
And,
I
yeah,
know of 3 departments right around us that are doing this, working on the same thing.
But
I
we
think some of
can't,
us were hoping to be able to watch the others on this,
Mhm.
and certainly on our standpoint, getting to a point where we have certainty in who's gonna be in that very important financial personnel involved office downstairs is going to help give us, knowing who we're working with and having that in place is gonna give us it's gonna be a big step to having the administrative capacity to, say, administer timesheets and things like that for 4 times as many humans or twice as many humans or something like that. So getting to the point where we know exactly what the administrative burden is, what the process is gonna be, it's gonna be a big deal, but that's gonna be the kind of thing that we can work toward in the coming months to get an idea. We certainly, at the budget time, we talked about it as though we are going to have this conversation going into budget season 25. So reopening this discussion in the fall was what I took from the January conversations.
well, I consider it more of it's an ongoing
Yeah.
conversation for the year as
It is.
we learn more about the financial implications, the administrative implications, the legal implications, those types of things. But I would find it difficult to do mid-year, like mid-budget year, because you're gonna wanna have it, you're gonna wanna put it into your budget for 2025, so your taxpayers all know what those are.
But if, like, cause I know when it was presented the first time, it only came to the board.
Mhm.
That was hard. I mean, something like that serious should have been all of us over there.
Mhm.
You know, we're all one company. It only got presented to our board and then you get to hear bits and pieces.
Mhm.
So I guess if you guys have updates, and hopefully you will have updates, then maybe you could come to one of our regular meetings and all of us could hear it at once. Cause I mean, it's not just the board that runs that over there. It's all of us members
Mhm.
run that over there. So, I mean, that was a shell shocker. All of a sudden you're sitting in a meeting and bang, here it is. You knew nothing about, whoa, you know?
That's
It's
something we
nice to
can
have everybody say, hey, if you're interested in this, come here and here's the deal. Would have settled a lot better, I think.
I think at least in every couple of months, update with you guys on what progress has been made, what questions have been asked, what questions do we still need to ask? And it would be a really reasonable time frame for this as we work toward getting exactly what we need to know, knowing what we know, knowing what we don't know, and knowing what questions we need to ask further.
Well, the big thing for, like, especially for the chiefs, is right now, we have no, I guess I say, we have no control over some of our members, our disciplinary actions, all that stuff, everything's out the window. There used to be disciplinary actions and all that stuff written up about fighting, arguing, reckless this, all that stuff. We had all that stuff, SOPs, SOGs, all that stuff written up. And now we don't have a leg to stand on.
That was all signed by the select board members back, and we were calling on it, Jamie, forever. And then all of a
2
sudden
years?
it got thrown back to the company and now there's nobody signing, there's no ball. I mean, that's a rough thing to stand in.
Mhm.
Worked on that over 2 years.
I did get him to adopt some in the thing, now, here you go. So at our annual meeting, I said, we gotta adopt some of these SOPs, SOGs, and people voted and we did. But on the same thing as you guys, on a legality standpoint, where do we stand? That was a show of hands or filling out a piece of paper,
Mhm.
but it's the select board's names that are on the bottom of all them SOPs, SOGs.
Yeah,
So
I
we
think-
were in a rough spot for a little while, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, and I think what's happened over the many decades is those roles got very blended. And when we looked into this, those roles never should have been blended. The fire company or fire protection one, as they call it now.
Yeah, it used to be company, now. it's
Yep.
protection.
They have always been the governing body of your fire department. That's the way it's traditionally always been. We're not the only department in the state of Vermont that has blended those roles over the years.
Yeah.
Because things become more expensive, the town's taxpayers pay a lot of money for equipment, operations, things like that. So it's naturally as it happened, but as we dug into it, it probably never should have happened. That's why we pushed back and said, this is the legal way it has to, unless you become a municipal agency. And then there's now legal aspects that come along with that. That was my understanding of it.
Yeah. No, it's just, we were in a row.
Mhm.
And I don't know if we've corrected it yet because of what we did, but, I mean, that's what I was saying by, if all of us had heard that, you probably would have had some questions on that.
Mhm.
Not that it probably wouldn't have made a difference, but we could have been working on something, to get in place. We ran a little while where there was no rules. You come, go, do whatever you wanted over there.
Mhm.
Now we've adopted some and hopefully they,
And that's all depends, I mean, all three of us could, something could happen, somebody could do something, all three of us should agree, or can agree, that so-and-so should be suspended, terminated, whatever. It's up to the company president. It's out of our hands for something he did wrong on the department side. It's in his hand, he can pick and choose if he wants to go by our recommendations or not.
Beauty of nonprofit bylaws is, and operating procedures is they can be amended further too. And tradition has been that you guys only do that at annual meeting, and it might not make sense to be ending things when it might be like marching toward oblivion here, but buttoning things up. And Brian, what you did at the annual meeting last year was a great, big deal. It was a really important measure that you really should feel proud of, because getting that through is not an easy thing. So, you did the right thing there, and it seems like, yes, there's things that we can do on our end, but revisiting this conversation and knowing what we need to, what questions we still have outstanding is something that we need to move forward on.
All right, the next section is administrative, administration and administrative equipment. And I'm assuming that involves the copier and a few other.
So I can just put a button on that.
Yeah,
Like I saw your
Let's
printer.
tie those things up as
Yeah,
quickly as we can.
Printer, if you have big print jobs, send it to me. It costs us pennies on the dollar, much less than buying you guys a color printer down there. That'll run through ink a lot less efficiently. So if you have big color print jobs or substantial color print jobs, just send it to me. You have my email. It's easy to get them done. I can have them done within 24 or so hours.
But it's really easy to make up a run sheet or something if you run out of the firehouse
Yeah.
at 2:30 in the morning. I
And
mean, we've always had a fairly decent operating color printer we paid, and now we don't. I mean, it's 2024.
color printing has not come down that much, unfortunately. But it certainly is something that where if that existing model isn't what you need, it may not be what you need, but we can look at exactly what you need, what capabilities do you need? Do you need to print faster? Do you need to print with more volume? And if you're printing with color,
Color would be nice, like our letterhead, we can't even do our letterheads anymore.
yeah, that's it.
but that's why we always had our office line, and I don't think we've ever already done our office line.
Yeah,
So
entirely
this was
reasonable.
this was back to part of the budget thing, and I talked to Jamie about this earlier today. We sat over here budget night, and, Jamie had gone down to the rec park, talked to Willie. Nick had gone to the town, and talked to them. I've heard it from some people who watch on GNet TV, they're watching at home, and here we are as a fire department, and we're just barely talking about our budget and changing our numbers. When every other department come in here, no, we've already talked about this, we've done this and this. That's why we set up our budget the way we set up our budget, because we know how we need it to roll. We know our fire gear, we know all this. But if we don't have any input in it, then it's hard for us to get our budget rolling. So to sit here that night and just change numbers, we look like we don't even have a clue what we're doing, because nobody came and visited us.
I don't think any future years will ever have a weird situation like we had with the weird interim situation we had last year, right at the same time this was all happening. Certainly, we can all expect that will never be the case again. That was kind of a complicating matter on top of all of this.
I mean, I'd like to go back to what we used to have. Jamie used to have to do the school, so we talked about an officer meeting. Me and the other assistant chief would come over here and we present our budget to the select board. And we talk about it right then in a budget meeting.
Line by
on
line.
TV, none of that. We talk about it there.
Line by line.
Yeah, and what I'd love to do would be at that officer meeting with you guys and at least be able to sit there and hear from you and prepare a draft budget together in a collaborative way, and then bring it to the select board for public revision, edits.
But if you come to
feedback.
us and let's say we don't get invited, so now I can tell you,
Yeah.
I got asked year after year after year, what's an SCBA? I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I used to have to answer that question every year. So if it was so much easier if we came to the whole group, not have this meeting with one person, that person comes back to you. We come to your whole group.
That's fine. If you wanna come for,
If that's
talk
what you
about
wanna
fire
do, feel
budget,
free.
that's fine. Like, that's an easy fix.
Yeah.
If
We
you
just
need,
look-
if you need a printer, then would you?
We'll buy you a
go with
printer.
No, but to me, we just look foolish sitting here. We're the only department that's sitting here on TV that night of a budget thing, changing our numbers. It's like, shouldn't you been more prepared? Well, yeah, we were more prepared, but we never were invited.
Okay, so next year we'll invite you.
Yeah.
That's been fixed.
Anything else?
Yes, two things, one we've talked about real quick. We still have an ongoing mold issue at the firehouse. We're gonna have to relocate if you get in a fire. We're gonna have to do some ventilation. We have, multiple helmets in the gear closet. And we've even had firemen's gear in their gear lockers develop mold. So we're gonna have to do something about that. And then the next big thing, again, we need a grant. If you guys can support us in the direction for the grant writer, we miss out on tons of grant year after year. And this year, we wanted to jump on the Homeland Security grant for this year. We needed the town approval to do it because it's a matching, or not a matching, yeah, it's matching. 70-20%, whatever it is. And we wanted to get going earlier in the year, couldn't meet with the select board. B, we didn't have a real grant writer. I then found out, I printed off the Homeland Security grant worksheet. And there's a lot of information that needs to come from the town, not the fire department, to go along with these grants. And then there's other grants we want to apply for as well.
Did you send those to Nick?
No, it was too late. By the time we were getting around to it, it was too late in the year.
So I'm always happy
So-
to participate with that, Jamie.
Currently, right now, there's online grant writing training. April has gone by, May, June, and July, all for the federal Fire Act grant.
I have a,
So there's that. I've actually been looking at a lot of those lately. There's a big one in St. Albans coming up June 3rd and 4th, for Fire Act grants. So there's a lot of those still available.
And I would love to attend any of those as relevant. Oh,
Thank you. I know we spoke last year. I will help. Like, you just have to tell me when you need me and what it is. I'm more than happy. I grant write fairly regularly, and I'm more than happy to help if you just tell me what you need. I'll even happy to look for you. Like, I just need to know, what do you need? What do you want? And I know we had talked about that last year, but if you just follow up with me, I'm more than happy to sit down with you guys and help you out. Like, more than happy.
And we secured an HSG or Homeland Security grant from a different vertical within Homeland Security, like 2 months ago, for hazard mitigation. So this is not something that's the end of the world. I would love to put time into this as well. It's something that,
You can just get a 2-for-1 special.
Yeah, very much so. But I know last time we applied for the Fire Act grant, we had some hangups getting information from the department. So if you guys be willing to be available and help get the information far enough in advance that we're not applying last minute, I can do the rest of it, and I'm happy to go up to St. Albans and drive up there to do a fire actor. It's a good idea. These are the kind of things that should be something that is in my skill set. So,
One of the items we had in your last list of things was transfer of the buildings. Can you give us an update on that, Nick?
I think we
There's a
should
couple of snafus there.
we should certainly be prepared for, and I believe the board is ready for transfer of West Station. I know there were some issues and headaches associated with East Station with legal caveats and things like that. And the fact that that building has some compliance issues that would be tricky for us to handle right out the gate. But certainly I can talk to the attorneys about getting the deed drafted out promptly about West Station. East Station needs at least a call to our insurer about some details here of, does taking this on change the way you guys can use? Because what we don't want to do is take that building on, have our insurer come in and say, there are compliance issues with this and it fails, thus you guys can't use your meeting space. And thus you're meeting here, not there. Or would have to change something some of the ways that you use your spaces. That is what I'm really afraid of. But I'm happy to make the call to the insurer on that, and I'm happy to make the call to the attorney on acquisition of West Station promptly. If that is sensible.
Well, as I understand it, there's some deed issues as well.
Yes, deed issues in East.
With East Station,
Yes,
yes.
West
Several
does
deed
not have those
issues.
deed issues.
And they may not be.
And possibly
they
tied
may
into
not
the
be
West Station as
possible
well.
solved.
So I think that's something, another good reason to sit down with the fire company with, and if there's anything that gonna cost the fire company anything financially to transfer the building over to the town of Arlington, we may not be able to afford it. We're at that point.
I can't imagine what costs would be associated for you to transfer over. I think it's a matter of legal.
Yeah, it's a matter of, can we continue to use it in the way we're accustomed to? And we do have some backups, because you guys could go and do your things that require a meeting room. We have a perfectly good meeting room, you're sitting in it. And if you need, like, this building doesn't have a kitchen or anything like that, or at least a meaningful kitchen, there are certainly gonna be some quirks if we lose access to the full space. I don't see the bays being disqualified in any way. I certainly fear the rest of the building being compliant enough for our insurer. But I can also, maybe I can call the insurer and see if they can do a walkthrough of this building and just do we're looking at this, could you give us a compliance check? What would we need to do to make you, our insurer, happy if we did buy it?
Well, and the only thing I would think, there's only one fire department around that I know has an elevator in Springfield Village. Jasper doesn't have an elevator. The thing would be handicap accessibility.
Yeah, which is not that expensive, but it is something.
Does Shasbury know? I thought they put one in when Jared got into the fire department.
No.
No?
No.
No? All right, just kidding.
And I don't think Manchester has one either.
Yep.
Yeah.
I never
Sorry, I
seen
mean,
it.
Teresa, yeah, sorry.
Did you?
I was waiting for all you folks. Well, this begs for me the question, where do we set a new firehouse wherever within the town's confines?
There's a committee. Brian's on it, Jamie's on
Okay, no, I just
One's
want
on it.
just
We're
wanna,
in the very
Make sure.
preliminary stages of trying to figure that
it.
out.
I can send you the minutes of those meetings.
Taking some road trips here
That's
very
all.
shortly.
We're moving forward.
Yeah, we're gonna be taking some road trips to look at other stations here
Yes.
very shortly.
Which is I mean, that's also sparked the additional conversations about municipal versus the current setup of the fire department as volunteers. Because when the town owns the fire department, comes different regulations, rules, insurances, things like that. It's been one kind of big rolling conversation for a while.
You're pretty much out of time for this.
Okay,
So I will just mention, I did just get a message from Darren who said the company has just purchased a new printer, which is set up downstairs. So it said it's in the office where the old one always was.
Just did it.
Must have, yeah.
And
He said that is there and
So that's
available
off the
for,
table then.
for department use as always.
So they're the backup, or at least I don't want to walk downstairs printer.
Right.
Um,
All right, so unless you have anything else, we can move on to the rest of our evening's business.
No, we're up on time.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. So we are to the appointments. Do you want to do the treasurer and have discussion in executive
Yeah,
session?
that doesn't need to be under appointments. There are just two very quick
Okay.
appointments that are slated for this, which is
Okay,
Tony Smith to the zoning board of adjustment, or Anthony Smith to the zoning board of adjustment, and Jamie Poskett to the regional emergency management committee.
Anthony Smith. Did you say?
Yes, to the ZBA.
I guess we'll do separate motions for these.
They can be just a joint motion.
Okay.
It's not a big deal.
For those two different, positions. So I will entertain a motion to appoint Anthony Smith to the ZBA and Jamie Poston to which position?
The regional emergency management committee.
Okay,
I make a motion, to approve Tony Smith to the, appoint Tony Smith to the ZBA and Jamie Poston to the Regional Emergency Management Committee.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Glenn, seconded by Todd to, approve the appointment of Anthony Smith to the ZBA and Jamie Poston to the Regional Emergency Management Committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, highways. These are two very, very straightforward items. We just need to vote, approve the road inventory. You want to call it that. It's this form that's sitting on the table
Is
that's
that this?
circulated. I'm not sure if it has a TA number on it now. So it just, I'm calling it the road inventory.
Town road and bridges and network inventory. I'll make a motion on that. We will dispose of that quickly.
Make a motion to accept the certificate of compliance for town road and bridges standards and network inventory dated March 25th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by Todd to approve the bridge, roads and network inventory. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Great. Yes, sign. And then the other one
Everybody
is,
signs that.
yes, and the other one is
Grants and aid.
the grants and aid participation. So it's just, I make a motion to authorize participation in the 2025 grants and aid. There's nothing to sign on that one. That's you're authorizing us to be on the list.
I make a motion, to allow the town of Arlington to participate in the grants and aids program for 2025.
Second. Motion made by Todd and seconded by Glenn to approve the participation in the grants and aid program for 2025. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right,
Okay.
do you want to hit the
Yeah,
highlights of
highlights.
your report?
Highlights, I did a bunch of emergency management this period, so that's something a bit new. I did an all-day training and as well as reviewing the end of the LEMP and some other miscellaneous follow-up in that space. So the REMC is launching soon. I started the process of preparing for some state testimony as well, and met with our legislators, had a bunch of conversations on legislative matters. And they're, along with normal, everyday, regular kind of work alongside. We had some snow events that in the highway department that were worth mentioning, and then other ongoing miscellaneous work. So in the name of time, I'll just keep that brief.
I have one question for
Yes.
Brian and the fire department.
Okay.
You guys went over to Cambridge, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yep,
Did you discuss the agreement at all when you were over there?
yep. So the chief was going to, checked with the dispatch, and there's nothing made on their end as far as us not being notified. He said maybe because it was such a storm night that it got looked over. So he apologized for that. As far as the bill, he said they had to cut their way in and all that, so it was a pretty lengthy call for them. As we know, we, had to fight our way to places, but he was gonna check with the dispatch. And if he had to, the town administrators to see if anything had got changed, why? There was nothing on his end.
Okay.
So he apologized and said that we should get notifications for everything else.
You guys had a good meeting over there?
It was very good. Right? They want to work with us. We're gonna hopefully do some drills in Blackwell Hollow with them. And we went over some equipment that each of us had. We're gonna send over some inventory stuff and all that, and that's part of that conversation I was talking about. So they're under the idea for standing by Shushin that will probably be covering them now too. So that's part of the having some extrication equipment with us, because it's either them or Salem, and if those two are out, Salem's out. So we'd be covering quite an area. At least we'd have some tools to make up the cracks.
And then we are with the added to the first two, the first alarm for the town of Jackson.
You're gonna have what?
We're gonna be added to the
First
first
alarm.
alarm for the town of Jackson. For two trucks?
Yeah, and then we're on a tanker for something now, anything else, but. So it was very good.
The only question I had.
Which we've been added to the first alarm.
It seems like that's the way the world's going these days, and there's bigger and broader conversations to be had. I think we're just in the early stages, some of that, and you guys going over there and having that conversation is gonna be, was a very helpful thing, so. So, beyond that, if we wanna do
Okay.
warrants.
We can do the warrant
Okay.
order before executive session.
Yeah.
Motion to approve check warrant report WD number 7, Water Department. In the amount of $241.85. Comcast, DigSafe, Postmaster, and Verizon Connect.
Second.
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by Todd to approve check warrant report WD 7 in the total amount $241.85. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve check warrant report number 7, general fund, in the amount of $25,549.40. Large ticket items, RHR Smith and Company, for the audit. Peckham Industries for some stone, 2,600. Miles Fuels, 5,200. Municipal Emergency Services, Fire Department purchases, 4374.91.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by Todd to approve check warrant report number 7. Total amount of $25,549.40. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. The next, is there any other business to be brought before the board? We're gonna have an executive session. We need a reason, motion to establish a reason as a personnel and legal matter. And we were likely to come out and at least make one decision.
Yeah, I make a motion, that premature discussion of a personnel and legal issue would cause the municipality to suffer substantial disadvantage.
And allow.
Not that
Second.
Second.
So motion made by Glenn and seconded by Jamie to establish the reason for the executive session as a personnel and legal matter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we need a motion to enter into.
I make a motion to enter into executive session for discussion of a personnel and legal issue and to allow town administrator Nick Zias to remain in the room. That's it. Right?
Perfect.
Yep.
Second.
Motion made by Glenn and seconded by Todd to enter into executive session for said personnel and legal matter. And allow town administrator Zias to stay in the room. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
We're in at 8:25.
Recording stopped.
Let me restart the recording.
Recording in progress.
It is 8:48 and we're back in regular session. Is there someone that want to make a motion for what was discussed in the personnel part of the thing?
I would make a motion to authorize the town administrator, Zias, to contact the town treasurer applicants and inform them of our decision and to negotiate. And that person will be named at our next meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Todd and seconded by Jamie to contact the appellant or the applicants and negotiate with the winning candidate, and that will be publicly announced at our next meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries. Unless there's anything else to be brought before the board.
Make a motion
I'll
to
entertain a
adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by Todd. We are adjourned. Thank you, Janet.
Night.
Thank you,
Night.
everyone.